It's really obnoxious to watch someone pretend like they're learning all of these things for the first time when they've been vegan for longer. They were vegan before even starting the documentary. I don't like it. So many of you wanted me to review this movie. It's been out for a couple weeks now, I think, on Netflix. Directed by Ali Tabrizi and produced by Kip Anderson, one of the creators of Cowspiracy and What the Health. So yeah, given my not super positive views of What the Health, I'm sure you guys are interested in what I have to say about Seaspiracy. It's about an hour and 30 long, and I like that Netflix allows you to speed up stuff now. I don't use that for like entertainment things, but like documentary stuff like this, where it's sometimes a little bit more boring, it's useful. So the movie starts basically by them talking about Japan and dolphin killing in Japan, which made me a little bit nervous, I have to say. I was worried that it was going to be too focused on other countries and practices in other countries instead of all of the suffering that we out here in the West cause to various sea creatures. And I was worried that it, would come across as a little bit xenophobic, but I was very wrong. Fortunately, I was very wrong. Anyway, the documentary starts looking at Japan, dolphin killing in Japan. They talk about SeaWorld purchasing these dolphins, which I actually did not know. That's the primary reason for these drives, is to take the suitable dolphins, I suppose, and then to sell them for lots of money to places like SeaWorld. At least in the past, that's what they did. And then the rest of the dolphins are killed supposedly for pest control. They are seen as pests. They're seen as competition for the fishermen because obviously dolphins eat the fish, tuna, and whatnot. So if that's true, then purchasing fish like tuna ultimately supports the killing of these dolphins. And it's not just dolphins, it's sharks and sea turtles and lots of other critters. And of course, the fish themselves, the tuna themselves. That's the weird part about a documentary like this, at least the bulk of the documentary, is that the focus is not on the fish we're eating, the tuna and the salmon and whatnot. The focus is on the valuable, I guess, marine life, the whales and the sharks even, and sea turtles and whatnot. And I get why that is. To get people interested, you have to talk about dolphins because, at least out here in the West, we don't care about tuna suffering. We care about dolphin suffering. After about 20 minutes, we reach, in my opinion, the best part of the film. They start talking about bycatch. Yes, Japan kills hundreds of dolphins a year, but this is nothing compared to, again, the number of dolphins and sharks and other marine life killed as a result of fishing. It's a bit like going after, again, certain Asian countries for eating dogs when we kill billions of cows and chickens and pigs every year, and not just kill them, but cause them immense suffering before they're killed, seems rather xenophobic. So again, I was really, really happy to see that it seemed intentional. They included the Japanese hunting and whatnot in the beginning, and then we're like, but really, the big issue is us. We need to focus on ourselves. Then we have the, I suppose, infamous part of the film, the Dolphin-safe tuna interview. They interview Mark J. Palmer with the Earth Institute. They're the ones who label, tuna as dolphin-safe. Tabrizi asks him in the interview, can you guarantee that every can is dolphin-safe? No, nobody can. Once you're out there in the ocean, how do you know what they're doing? We have observers on board. The observers can be bribed. So then Tabrizi asks, okay, well, how can people protect dolphins? And Palmer answers, by dolphin-safe tuna. But you just said there's no guarantee the dolphin-safe label means dolphin-safe. And then Palmer says, nothing can guarantee it's dolphin-safe. We can pretty well guarantee it's dolphin-safe. The world is a difficult place sometimes. To be charitable to Palmer, it seems what he was trying to say, very poorly, was that this is the best option if you care about dolphin safety, would be purchasing tuna with the dolphin-safe label. That is going to help you reduce the risk of causing harm to dolphins by as much as possible. This is basically what he said in the follow-up. He has claimed that he's been misrepresented, and yeah, okay. That's not what consumers think when they see dolphin-safe tuna. They don't think that there are no guarantees in life. We can't really know what the fishermen are out there doing in the ocean. There are observers, but they're rarely there, and they can be bribed. I don't think that's what consumers are thinking. I think when they see dolphin-safe tuna, they think dolphin-safe tuna. They think safe for all dolphins, not safe for most, maybe, possibly, who knows. So truly, the only way you can have dolphin-safe tuna is by not eating tuna or eating plant-based tuna. Good catch. I don't know if you guys have tried that. I actually saw it in our regular grocery store in the tuna aisle, which is super awesome. But yeah, it is definitely the closest to tuna. I bought it once and I liked it at first, and then it just got too much. It's too fishy for me. But yeah, if you like that, definitely try it. So then they move on to plastic and plastic pollution in the ocean, and this is where things get not so great. So he starts by talking about the messaging around plastic reduction and how to stop plastic pollution in the ocean, and basically that it focuses on individual practices, right? Like plastic straws and plastic bags, stop littering, that sort of thing. But according to the movie, discarded plastic straws really aren't the issue. It's actually the fishing industry that's the big issue. Tabrizi talks about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch and how, according to a recent study, the majority of the plastic in that patch actually comes from marine sources. It comes from fishing nets and other fishing gear. So then they do the whole, just like they did in What the Health, the whole, I've got to find the answers. I've got to go talk to people. So he goes to the Plastic Pollution Coalition. He talks to Jackie Nunez in a seemingly pretty damning interview. It looks pretty bad for them. He asks why they don't talk about the fishing industry on their website. Is there something people can do to stop this fishing net trash? This is after he explains the whole Pacific Garbage Patch thing. And she says one thing that you could do is eliminate or really reduce your intake of fish. Now she's like stumbling over her words as she says this. She's clearly very uncomfortable. And again, he says, well, okay, why isn't that on the website? And she says, well, I don't make the website. Talk to the founder, the CEO, Diana Cohen. And so he does. She is obviously very agitated. She tells them to turn the cameras off. When Tabrizi tells her about what Miss Nunez said about eliminating fish, she keeps denying it. Like, she doesn't believe him. She's like, no, she did not say eliminate fish. Just, again, it looks really bad. It makes both of them look not great. And unsurprisingly, Tabrizi's next step is to follow the money. It is called Seaspiracy, after all. And lo and behold, Plastic Pollution Coalition is a project of Earth Island Institute, the Dolphin-safe tuna dudes. The obvious implication being that the Plastic Pollution Coalition won't talk about the supposed connection between the fishing industry and plastic pollution because they are at least partially funded by the tuna industry. So yeah, there is a lot to talk about here. First, yes, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is mostly a result of the fishing industry. It's not really surprising. A lot of fishing is done in the Pacific, but the garbage patch does not represent all of the oceans on Earth. It doesn't represent all of the plastic pollution in the oceans. When we look at the ocean pollution globally, it's about 20%. 20% of the ocean plastic pollution comes from marine sources. So still a sizable portion, but quite a bit less than 50% or over 50%. That's not to say that like eliminating plastic straws is the answer. Tabrizi is absolutely right about that it's just a drop in the bucket. It's around 0.03% of all the plastic in the oceans. But eliminating fish doesn't fix things either. Most of the ocean plastic pollution is a result of poor waste management, which mostly occurs in developing nations, particularly developing nations that have had a rapid industrial expansion without improvements in waste management to match. In other words, they're consuming more plastic, but they don't have the systems in place to responsibly dispose of it. Wealthy nations like the US don't have this problem. Most of the ocean pollution here comes from just intentional littering, right? Dropping plastic bottles on the beach, shit like that. If you're watching this, you probably already know not to do that. You probably don't do that. So if you are in the US or someplace similar, eliminating straws makes a small difference. Eliminating fish from your diet makes a bigger difference, and any change, any improvement does matter, but if we all do a little, we'll only achieve a little. These actions have little impact on the 80% of ocean plastic pollution that are coming from land sources. I mean, it's kind of shocking if North America and Europe, if we completely cut out our plastic consumption, so not just plastic straws, global mismanaged plastic would decline by only 5%. Fixing this largely relies on institutional changes, not individual choices. If high-income countries are truly serious about addressing the ocean plastic issue, the most impactful way to contribute is to invest in the improvement of waste management infrastructure practices across the world. Without such investment and cooperation, we will not be able to reduce the quantity of plastic entering the ocean. We are still currently on a trend of rapidly increasing plastic waste. To stabilize, let alone reduce, will require large impact solutions. But that makes for a much less exciting movie than the Plastic Pollution Coalition is lying to you about the fishing industry because they're funded by Dolphin-safe tuna. So they go on to talk about sustainability of wild catch. They talk about sustainability of fish farming. And Tabrizi says, there are many more fish going into the farmer's feed than will ever come out. So fish farming is just wild fishing in disguise. No, it's not. Fish farming still has its issues, the main one being that sentient beings are still being killed for no legitimate reason, but it is clearly better overall in terms of sustainability when compared to wild catch. Fish farmers have made huge improvements over the years in reducing the amount of fish they use for feed. Some researchers are even looking into non-fish sources like soy. It also varies from species to species. Tilapia and oysters require much less feed than like salmon. Mollusks are the planet's most environmentally sustainable source of animal protein. They don't use any land, they don't use any fresh water, and they actually clean up the environment around them. And they're very likely not sentient. So if you gotta eat things grown in water, I guess go for oysters. Just to be clear, I'm not defending fish farming. It is a horrible way for these creatures to live. They show some images of salmon and the sea lice they have to deal with, and it's just terrible. But just in terms of environmental impact, there is no question that fish farming is better than wild fishing. And this is ultimately my big pet peeve with movies like this, with Seaspiracy and What the Health, is that they're vegan documentaries. The point of Seaspiracy is to convince people to stop eating fish, not for health, not for the environment, which is the whole focus of the film, but because the filmmakers believe it's wrong to eat fish, period. So they're starting from that position, and then they have to look for reasons why eating fish is bad for the environment, because that's what sells, right? No one's going to watch a movie about fish pain, fish suffering, but they'll watch a movie about saving the dolphins and biodiversity and whatever else. So inevitably, Tabrizi and everyone else involved in this film, they are going to exaggerate because, again, their ultimate goal is not to save the oceans, it's to save the fish. And this is confirmed at the end of the film where Tabrizi, he attends a grind. It's a dolphin drive. It's really, really graphic. It's really sad. I was so happy I made it through the movie without crying, but yeah, that part is pretty brutal. Anyway, he says, in the chaos of everything that happened, I finally understood sustainability. It just meant that something could continue on forever, regardless of how much suffering it caused. In reality, the grind was about as sustainable as you could get. But I began to wonder whether sustainability was truly the right goal for how we took care of the ocean. In other words, the first hour and 20 minutes of the movie didn't matter. Sustainability doesn't matter. They don't really care about sustainability. Fish lives are what matter. It's like if I say, don't eat eggs because eggs come from factory farming and factory farming contributes to climate change. And then you say, well, I don't eat eggs from factory farms. I eat eggs from my backyard. And then I say, well, eating eggs is still wrong. Well, okay, then it wasn't really about climate change, was it? Maybe we should just say what we mean up front. It's wrong to kill fish when we don't have to. Even if there were no negative environmental impacts from doing so, it would still be wrong because fish think and feel. They feel pain. We don't have to eat fish, so we shouldn't. That's it. I know that's not as effective, at least in the short term. Again, people don't care about fish. They care about dolphins. They don't care about fish. They care about the ocean and nature. They don't care about fish pain. But still, documentaries like this just make me feel icky. They feel like propaganda because they are propaganda. Propaganda with a great moral message, but propaganda nonetheless. And I'm not saying you can't talk about fishing's effect on the environment. I'm not saying you can't talk about health, although it's a lot harder to do so when you're talking about fish, at least certain types of fish. But to act as though this is your primary interest, the effect on the environment, and then, oh yeah, go vegan, when really it should be flipped, it just comes across as rather phony to me. But yeah, much of fishing is harmful to the environment, and all of fishing is harmful to the fish. There are really interesting arguments for eating certain invasive species, like lionfish, but that's beyond the scope of this video. Generally, we shouldn't eat fish because it's wrong to kill sentient creatures when we don't have to. We can get omega-3s from flax and chia and hemp and walnuts and canola oil. We can get DHA from vegan algae-based supplements. And if we're just really set on eating slimy things from the scariest place on earth, oysters are a thing. So ultimately, I'm not a huge fan of Seaspiracy. I think it's much better than What the Health, but still not great, and still leaves me with the same sort of icky feeling at the end of the film, even though I agree, obviously. I'm vegan. I'm vegan for ethical reasons, but still, it just feels weird, and it's really obnoxious to watch someone pretend like they're learning all of these things for the first time when they've been vegan for longer. They were vegan before even starting the documentary. I don't like it. But please let me know what you think. I would love to hear from people who liked the film. I would also love to hear other people's thoughts on this type of movie and how you feel, if it makes you feel weird and like, again, icky, I keep using that word, but if it really, if I'm maybe overreacting to the propaganda-ness of the movie, if I'm overreacting to, I don't know, feeling like I'm being lied to or something, yeah, I would like to know your thoughts, so leave them down below. If you liked the video, give it a like, subscribe. You can support the channel, patreon.com/unnaturalvegan, and I will have a new video hopefully very soon. And just like with What the Health, the most powerful part to me is at the end of the film when they finally show their hand, so to speak, and actually start talking about ethics to some degree. So in this case, they show the grind, which is just awful. And then they interview one of the participants. He ends up, rightfully so, criticizing people like us, majority whom are not vegan, right? Criticizing us for criticizing him for participating in this, for killing whales when we're eating, multiple salmon at dinner or whatever else. He says, people saying, if you want to eat, don't kill anything, I can go along with that. But I really can't go along with people that are saying you must not kill grind, and then they are killing or eating other animals. So similarly in What the Health, you have I can't remember exactly, but it was some guy who was maybe part of the military, and then he ends up working with people in Africa to save rhinos, and finally it dawns on him, like, I'm trying to save these animals while eating animals. This is like not right. And so he goes vegan. And again, to me, that was like the most powerful part of the film. I guess I'm a little bit biased given what I believe, but I thought that interview was excellent. I'm really glad they included it. Again, helping to also ameliorate the potential to come across as like xenophobic. Like, no. This guy is not the problem. Obviously, what they're doing, if they don't have to do it, it's immoral. But to point the finger when you're supporting the torture of pigs and chickens and, yeah, it's a little ridiculous. Unless you're vegan, then you can criticize. And then in terms of just some funny stuff, they have very early in the film when they're talking about Japan, they have an interview with this guy, Rick O'Barry from the Dolphin Project. And he just goes on this whole thing about being followed and everything, which, I'm not probably sure. I believe he was arrested and he's like not allowed back in the country, I think. But he says the room is bugged, the telephone is bugged, the television is actually photographing you while you are in your room. Now he's an older man, So, maybe he doesn't know how things work. And now, to be fair, there are some smart TVs that do have like built-in cameras. I don't know how common that is. Your TV is not photographing you. Oh my goodness. Like, why even include that in the movie? It's so dumb. And to have it so early in the film, ooh, man, it doesn't look good.